Carol finally standing her ground against the hive's attempt to extract her stem cells, and Manousos stepping out of isolation for the first time since the outbreak to meet her. And both moments collide into one terrifying question. Is the hive bluffing, or is Carol already in more danger than she realizes? Episode 6 kicks off with Carol going deeper into her investigation of what the hive mind really consumes for sustenance. She discovers the Agri-Jet outlet in Albuquerque, basically a massive industrial freezer stuffed with vacuum-sealed human body parts. These weren't victims dragged off the street. These were dead bodies being harvested, liquefied, and turned into the nutrient soup the hive drinks. It's horrific.
What you are about to witness...
Is this about them eating people?
But it's also the hive's workaround for the rules they've built for themselves. No eating animals, no eating plants, no consuming anything that involves taking life. Their entire moral system is built on this loophole. They aren't killing anyone for food, they're repurposing the dead. Carol, disgusted and disturbed, races to Las Vegas to deliver this discovery directly to Diabate, because she believes none of the other survivors have figured out what she just learned. She thinks she's the only one doing the hard investigative work while everyone else stays passive. But she's wrong. When she confronts Diabate with the truth, he casually tells her that every survivor except her and Manousos already knew. Even worse, they've accepted it. They don't like it, but they've rationalized it the same way the hive rationalized it. After all, if more than 7 billion people are sharing one collective hunger, food scarcity is a death sentence waiting to happen. The survivors have turned their attention to the bigger crisis, the countdown to global famine within a decade. Carol is stunned that they're okay with HDP, human-derived protein, even if it makes them gag. They've already adapted while she's still clinging to the idea of restoring humanity. Carol fires back with the point no one seems to care about. Once the hive figures out how to include the immune survivors, they'll be condemned to starve with everyone else. That's when Diabate drops the second bombshell, one that sends Carol spiraling into pure panic. The hive has found a way to convert immune survivors, but only with consent. It requires harvesting stem cells, tailoring the virus to match the person's DNA, and reinfecting them. It's invasive, painful, and impossible to do without willingness from the subject. The good news? The hive maintains it will only do this with permission. The bad news? A promise from a collective of 7 billion minds isn't exactly enforceable, binding, or trustworthy. Carol instantly refuses. She tells the hive directly, loudly, and stubbornly that she will never consent to them taking her stem cells.
I do not consent.
The hive appears to respect her decision. They acknowledge her no and pull back. Carol believes this is the turning point that finally frees her to fight without worrying about being forcibly integrated. But is that true? Is the hive really backing off because of her boundary? Or are they simply waiting for the right moment to overrule a single human voice? Carol heads back to Albuquerque, ready to map out her next steps. Diabate tries to warn her that this isolation, her refusal to trust anyone, survivor or hive, is going to crush her emotionally. Carol doesn't care. She believes the future of the world depends on one thing: undoing the hive entirely, not fixing it, not negotiating with it, not joining it, destroying it and restoring humanity before the earth collapses under the hive's hunger. But even as she plans her next move, the episode asks the question Carol refuses to think about. What is the value of the hive's promise? If the hive can justify eating dead people as ethical consumption, how long until they justify turning one unwilling survivor into a donor for the greater good? They can outthink her, outnumber her, out-evolve her, and they have the minds of tyrants, dictators, geniuses, idealists, and extremists, all operating under one unified consciousness. Carol, for all her passion, is just one mind, but now she might not be alone. 3 days before Carol's trip to Vegas, her first video finally reached someone who needed it: Manousos. Until now, he has been starving himself while obsessively analyzing every radio frequency on Earth from his house, convinced that the key to the hive's communication lies somewhere in the radio spectrum. He thought he was alone, completely alone, in believing the hive takeover was wrong. He thought Carol was just another delusional voice on the wind. But when her video arrived explaining that there is a way to reverse the hive mind, that there is a procedure capable of breaking the psychic connection and restoring individuality, Manousos had the first spark of hope he's had since the world collapsed. Suddenly, he realizes he's not fighting a one-man war. Carol exists. She understands the threat, and she's actively trying to dismantle the hive. For Manousos, that's the first time something feels worth fighting for. That's the moment he decides to leave the sanctuary of his home, leave behind the vessel of his mother he's been avoiding, and cross thousands of miles from Paraguay to New Mexico to find Carol. And here's where the theory kicks in. Episode 6 heavily hints that the hive communicates not telepathically, but through high-frequency radio transmissions. Manousos detects an odd frequency, 8613.0. It has a rhythm, something that isn't quite Morse code, but definitely isn't random noise. If the hive is transmitting information through HF signals, the knowledge flows through the entire collective in real time. That is why the hive evolves at terrifying speed. That is why they're always 3 steps ahead. That is why no human being, no matter how smart, can match them. But if Carol and Manousos can disrupt that frequency, even temporarily, they could fracture the hive's communication, cut off the flow of information, slow evolution down, give themselves time, because 2 minds can't outthink 7 billion. But they might be able to blindfold them. The question is whether Manousos can make it to Carol alive. Episode 7 will almost certainly focus on his journey. A journey filled with danger, starvation, hive patrols, and the emotional baggage he carries from the life he lived before the conversion. And while Carol's loneliness comes from having no family left, Manousos comes from having a family he resented. His mother, once alive, was someone he hated. Now she's just a silent puppet. Her conversion didn't make their relationship better. It made it unbearable. And ironically, the hive's takeover freed him from the emotional prison she held him in. But it also trapped him in a world where every face is hers, blank, expressionless, and hollow. So when Carol's message arrives, it isn't just information. It's liberation, proof that his misery isn't pointless, proof that someone else sees what he sees, and maybe, just maybe, proof that the world can be reset to something he can live in again. Carol and Manousos both want the same thing. Not a perfect world, but a human one. And in their eyes, the hive's paradise is fundamentally doomed. A system that forbids killing plants and animals will run out of food. A collective that consumes only dead human biomass will eventually hit a wall. A world where 7 billion bodies share one hunger cannot survive. The hive is not a utopia, it's a countdown. And Carol and Manousos may be the only people willing to stop the clock. But as episode 6 ends, there's one chilling implication. The hive has already started looking for loopholes. There's no real contract safeguarding Carol, no real agreement preventing the hive from acting, just a verbal acknowledgement from a collective intelligence that has already justified bending morality when necessary. Carol thinks she's safe because she said no, but the truth is far darker. The hive didn't back down. They just paused. And once Carol and Manousos become an actual threat, once they start probing the hive's communication systems, once they uncover the secret method of reversing the conversion, the hive won't hesitate to break their non-existent deal. Because in the eyes of 7 billion minds, one little no doesn't stand a chance. And that is exactly why Carol and Manousos must move fast. Faster than the hive, faster than their own fear, faster than the inevitable betrayal coming their way, whether they succeed or fail. Episode 6 set the stage for a war where humanity's survival hinges on 2 amateurs fighting a godlike collective. And the hive already knows they're coming.